Hi everyone. So I decided to read the book Moby Duck, which is a national bestseller, and it's the true story of 28,000 bat toys lost at sea and of the beachcombers, oceanographers, environmentalists, and fools, including the author who went in search of them. So the author is Donovan Hahn, and this was published by Penguin Books February 28, 2012, which was actually a reprint. So I chose to read this book because it just blows my mind how much pollution there is in our oceans. I was very curious to see what Hahn's findings would be and to get a better understanding on how bad pollution really is and if he had any solutions to give us in order to help stop the pollution in our oceans. Well, to begin, the book starts out with Hahn catching wind that a large amount of bat toys had mysteriously appeared at sea. It wasn't a small bat toys either. In fact, it was over 28,000 bat toys that had been found. The toys included 7,200 red beavers, 7,200 green frogs, 7,200 blue turtles, and 7,200 yellow ducks. It didn't take too long to figure out the mystery of the toys, and on January 10th of 1992, the spill occurred from the ship called the Ever Laurel, whom had departed from Hong Kong, making its way to the port of Tacoma. Unfortunately, bad weather was in full force, and the Ever Laurel did not fax the National Weather Service. So we are unsure if the weather actually caused the spill, but it's more than likely that it did. At some point on the Ever Laurel, 2 containers that were stacked 6 high above the deck somehow snapped loose and tumbled overboard. This caused a massive spill of the bat toys from the company the first years. After 11 years from the spill had passed, a couple of beachcombers spotted something small and bright on a pile of seaweed on the southwest end of Gooch's Beach in Maine. The couple had found one of the yellow ducks lost from the shipment, and they had noticed the duck was extremely weathered, but it was still intact. The couple weren't the only ones to find a bat toy washed up on the coast. In fact, many others were finding stray bat toys all over the world. This rose many questions, especially to Donovan Hahn. Hahn decided that he wanted to track the movement of all these lost toys at sea, but he wanted to do it from the comfort and safety of his own living room. So, Hahn set hopes to interviewing oceanographers, beachcombers, and read up on ocean currents and Arctic geography, all in the comfort of his own home. But Hahn's hopes of his research didn't turn out quite the way he had planned. Instead, Hahn quit his job and said goodbye to his wife and his son. Hahn's research began by leading him on an odyssey that took him from Seattle to Alaska and to Hawaii, which later led on him going to China and the Arctic. Hahn's journey included his travel by plane, foot, and container ships. But back to the ducks. Hahn had discovered that some of the toys had made their way to the coast of Gore Point in Alaska. When Hahn was visiting, he found his own lost bat toy, a plastic beaver, in which the beaver was in a pile of debris on the coast. In addition, a beachcomber nearby had found a duck and gave it to Hahn as well. In continuance of the following the lost toys at sea, Hahn didn't realize how quickly his story was going to be solely based on the environment. But that's quickly what his story had turned into. In addition, Hahn was confronted with another serious matter: the plague of the accumulating plastic in the ocean. Plastic is not biodegradable, and it visibly lasts for decades, and it chemically lasts for centuries. Hahn noticed convergence zones, which are also known as garbage patches, which are in certain parts of the ocean where currents converge and spiral inward, which collects everything floating on the surface. What is so horrible about these convergence zones is that they contain tiny pieces and substances that adhere to the plastics and can enter the food chain. We know that plastic shouldn't be in the food chain, but we don't realize how horrible it is to have it in the food chain. And this is an ongoing area of study for Hahn. But Finding these lost bat toys wasn't just a hunt for Han, but it became a hunt for many other beachcombers. Han described beachcombers hunting for lost toys as similar to bird watchers, as in the fact that it is fun, recreational thing to do at the seashore. It's a hobby and a hunt. This has gotten more popular recently due to a shipment of Nikes being lost at sea. Beachcombers are thrilled to go out and hunt for a pair of Nikes that have washed up onto shore. Overall, Han had taken a very unexpected journey and learned way more than he ever expected to. He traveled all over the world and hunt for these bat toys, and during his journey, he had learned so much about the ocean and how plastic travels through the ocean. Han's journey is incredible, and it is a huge inspiration to take pollution more seriously. As for my analysis of the book, I was quite pleased at how interesting this book was. I like reading articles here and there about the ocean and how we can stop pollution, but I'm not really one to sit down and read a whole book about it. To begin, Han's main objectives of the books were to track down some of the remainders of the lost bat toys and to get a better understanding of how the plastic pollution in the oceans by interviewing beachcombers, oceanographers, and environmentalists. I would have to say Han successfully accomplished his objectives and even exceeded his own standards. For example, Han could have done all his research from home by calling people for interviews and just reading articles at his desk. Instead, he went out on a journey and got all his information firsthand and lived it. He had one hell of a journey and endured a lot of harsh weather, but he never gave up because of how determined and dedicated he was about solving the mystery of these lost bat toys. Although a couple of the things in the book didn't work for me. I was disappointed that Han never talked about what we can do to help stop pollution. He just instead rose awareness on pollution and explained how bad the pollution really is, especially in the ocean. In addition, this book was very long and drawn out. It was very interesting, however, but he didn't need to go so in depth in a lot of parts in the book. As for the major themes, determination was absolutely the key theme. If Han didn't have such strong determination to track down these lost bat toys, this book wouldn't have ever existed. And if it did, it wouldn't have turned out nearly as good or in-depth because it would have lacked all of Han's first-hand experiences in his journey. After reading this book, Han really reinforced my ideas on how bad pollution is becoming in our oceans. He really helped me realize that we all need to take this more seriously and start changing our habits in order to save our planet, or soon there will be little to nothing left because we destroyed it. In addition, the audience for the book is intended for anyone, but it's really intended for those who are really interested in our oceans and the story of the lost ducks. Overall, I would recommend this book to others. I really recommend it to those who are curious about finding out more about the bat toys who are lost. But overall, I really did enjoy this book, and I really learned a lot that will help me with my research paper later in this semester. Thank you.